So what options do I have to rejuvenate, i.e. to make my body systemically younger and thus, similar to a phone battery, again, be able to more cope right now? Obviously, I have a major disadvantage, which is that as time passes, my body kind of systemically self-destroys. Or rather, maybe more precisely, my ability to regenerate is maybe not necessarily going down, even though it seems that it also is going down, but more, it can be thought of as accumulated damage of being awake. The longer I am awake, the more metabolically stressed my body becomes just by being awake. If I then eat after being awake for 16 hours, then I can forget to do anything mentally useful. And the same concept of being awake, I think to a certain extent can be transferred to just existing. Existing is being awake. Simplified, one can maybe say sleep is, at least to some extent, regeneration. And being awake is drawing basically from the regenerated resources. So the only long-term viable way to work against this destruction of the body, which of course nobody intended, would be to increase my system's function, to create capacity that fights against time. So there are two ways to do this, simplified. The first one is to increase my body's strength, which in a way is actually kind of the same thing as cardiovascular training, or an attempt to increase cardiovascular ability. Because the heart is also a muscle. If one would need to choose in between strength and cardio training, then strength is the umbrella, because it encompasses classic strength training as well as heart strength training, the heart's ability to pump. So basically it's doing strength training, maybe non-interval heart strength training, also known as cardio, maybe increasing that amount of intensity. Then at a given power output per time with some regeneration constraints, one can now also reduce the output time of the heart and thus increase the intensity it can drive by doing HIIT, let's say, or one does something else, which is to pause in between. It is just that the cardiovascular system usually is not the bottleneck in muscular strength training, apart from now the heart. So it seems that I need a way to independently, ideally, of opening times, cardiovascularly work out in my first postprandial high, independent of when I wake and when I sleep. I tried multiple times to standardize my circadian day, but there are two major problems, which is that opening times, social events, work events are only to some extent standardizable. Of course, they are all generally, because we all are, at least ideally, circadian aligned, they are generally kind of aligned, therefore circadianly, but only to some extent. Gym opening times are, for example, different on weekends compared to weekdays. And of course, the ideal day would be circadianly identical in synchronicity from day to day. So it seems the best way to basically increase long-term my cardiovascular ability would be to get an air bike and thus use